Welcome, everybody, to the Hatfield Township Board of Commissioners meeting. This is our regular meeting, and today is August 26, 2026, and it is 6 p.m. Roll call.
President Lestraco.
Here.
Vice President Partha.
Here.
Commissioner Andrus.
Here.
Commissioner DeLessio.
Here.
Commissioner Zipfel.
Here.
Okay, for our Pledge of Allegiance, we'd like to have Brian, our amazing engineer, help us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do I have an approval of the agenda?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner DeLessio, seconded by Vice President Partha. All in favor of approval of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Citizens' comments. If you have a comment, you can come to the podium to address any of the agenda items. Agenda items only. And please state where you live.
Good evening. I'm Joseph Mueller. I live at 18 Durstein Road. I'm here tonight to ask the board to pass the Human Relations Ordinance. Early this summer, I helped raise the pride flag over Hatfield Township for the first time. A few days later, we raised the Juneteenth flag right here. Flying those flags mattered, but a flag without a foundation is just fabric. What gives them a lasting meaning is a policy that actually protects the people they represent. And to be clear, they represent all of us. This ordinance protects everyone in this township: race, religion, age, sex, national origin, disability, familial status, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression. That means it protects everyone. And here's what's easy to miss. That runs both ways. If you're Christian, this protects you. If you're straight, this protects you. If you're white, this protects you. It's the same law applied the same way to everyone. Human dignity applied without exception. And I've heard some people ask why we need this when we already have federal and state protections. The honest answer is those protections have real gaps. Namely, the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act does not list sexual orientation or gender identity in its text at all. LGBTQ residents are covered only because the state commission interprets it that way. And that could change with a vote, without a vote. Federal law only covers businesses with 15 or more employees, and it says nothing about housing or accommodation. A local ordinance closes that gap, and it puts those protections into Hatfield's own law. It gives residents a front door right here in town. Someone who's wrong can walk in and start the process instead of a distant agency with a backlogged caseload. And this is not something novel. It's a standard practice in Pennsylvania. More than 80 municipalities have already done this, including our neighbors in Lansdale, Talmadge, in Montgomery Township, Upper Gwinnett. Hatfield is not doing anything radical. It would be just catching up with the towns around us. And this is not neighbors settling scores. I'm not a lawyer, much to my parents' great disappointment, but it's my interpretation of this ordinance that the commission can't fine anyone. It can't bring a case. It can't force an outcome. What it does is offer voluntary confidential mediation. That's it. If it doesn't work, it can go to the courts, same as it's always been. And I'll say this personally because it's true. I'm a queer person. I'm a Democrat, but here's the thing. This ordinance is not about sexual orientation or political party. It's about humanity, and this is about equality. Neither of those notions should be seen as political, and honestly, protecting equality is one of the most sacred duties of any patriotic American. I know what it's like in quiet ways to wonder if the place you live in actually sees you. And this ordinance tells every person in Hatfield, in law and not just spirit, that they belong here. They're safe here. They're welcome here. And I've recently spoken with a lot of residents across the township from all walks of life. And not one person I spoke with was opposed to equality or supported discrimination, obviously. And almost all supported our township taking a stand on this. When you ask people plainly, it is not close. So commissioners, I thank you for the care you've put into this. I know there are still some conversations to be had about how we will implement this ordinance, how we'll appoint members, and how to operate the commission. But tonight isn't about those details. Tonight's about something simpler. Tonight is about taking that stand. The future will record that tonight this board either enacted a human relations ordinance or it chose not to. Not the process questions, not the internal disagreements, and not just the vote. And I'd ask each of you, what side of that vote do you want your name on? I do hope to see this pass, and I really hope we can make that vote unanimous, because that's a message that will speak volumes about who we are here in Hatfield for generations. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Joseph. Anyone else? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Clark. I live at 2105 Hidden Meadow, and with all due respect to the previous speaker, when I read through all of this, I was wondering, why are we doing the same thing that it's already done in 3 different places? We have the federal level, of course, with the various civil rights, fair housing, equal employment, et cetera, Title IX, Americans with Disability. We have the Pennsylvania PHRC, which has been in existence since 1955. We also have, and I believe it was established last year in Montgomery County, a Human Relations Commission that was, from what I could read, they don't have a whole lot. They pretty much mirror what the state says, the PHRC says. In answer to the inclusion, the PHRC through also, I know had it approved through the Attorney General, and I believe some legislative committee that also reviewed. They changed they enhanced the definition of sex to include pregnancy status, childbirth status, breastfeeding status, sex assigned at birth, gender identity or expression. I don't know what affectional is, but affectional and sexual orientation, and differences in sex development, whatever that means. We have also, and that is in, I believe it's called the Pennsylvania Bulletin, that was published, this is back in 2023. In reviewing and going through the it looks like we can mediate claims between somebody that feels they were discriminated against by somebody else, and I assume this is strictly in Hatfield Township, or can somebody claim discrimination that happens to be traveling through? Is that a...
When we have discussion about the ordinance, okay, I have some information that we'll share, and I'll kind of repeat what I've said in the past as to why we've seriously been considering this for some time, and I'll address your question then.
Okay. Again, I see it as redundant. I also know that you like to keep it as close to zero cost as, I believe you said, as reasonably feasible, whatever that means. It's going to become a budget item, correct? We're going to have 5 people, granted, strictly volunteers, not compensated. And one of the other questions I have is, I didn't see, the gentleman mentioned Franconia, Talmenson, Montgomery Township, Lansdale Borough also have one. I didn't see that, but okay, I'll take. Did we talk to any of them to see how either they implemented it, how it's ongoing, what kind of I'll call it workload, do they handle? Or their, when they do receive a complaint, from a statistical standpoint, is that forwarded on to the state? Because the state publishes every year the statistics of how many, what's resolved, what's done, whatever, and breaks it down into various categories. How's it handled when things come back no probable cause, which over the last 3 years has been 65%. We're determined no probable cause. That doesn't mean the other ones should be dismissed, but, and yeah, I'm totally against discrimination. Nobody should be discriminated against. Everybody's a human being. Everybody deserves a dignity and respect. I just don't see us doing something that's already done elsewhere. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments on agenda items only?
All right, given nobody's up there, I'm going to have something to say.
Okay.
So I want to set the record straight with and this is kind of trivial compared to the conversation we just had, but setting the record straight with fact rather than fiction and misinformation, as the HAC chair has stated, the pool has an annual operating deficit over $200,000 a year since 2015. In fact, the Hatfield Aquatic Center averaged a net annual income of $40,000 from 2015 to 2019. Nowhere near the $200,000 deficit that was stated. As you know, in 2020, the HAC Center was closed because of COVID. And so since that time, we've had, everyone's had difficulty, rising prices, labor, all those things. So since 2015 to 2025, excluding the COVID year, the annual operating deficit is well below $100,000. Fact is that an action plan developed in 2025 by pool manager John Taylor and pool advisory committee has the current pool net operating deficit at approximately $45,000. Now, not year end yet, not experienced all the weather just yet, have to be some reconciliation at the end of the year, but the pool advisory board and John Taylor did a nice job addressing operating revenue or operating expenses. If anyone's copy of that, I can certainly give it to you. And I want to personally thank John Taylor and the Pool Advisory Committee for collaborating with township staff and undertaking the work needed to address the pool operating deficit. For that, I thank you guys. Appreciate it. The PAC, or friend group, as Commissioner D'Alessio calls them, has suggested a committee be formed to explore for how to use the additional space in the fenced-in pool area. These ideas would certainly have been shared if there was an open monthly meeting such as those the PAC was held since the opening of the facility a long time ago. Ideas developed and provided to me were, morning yoga classes, mommy me exercises, low impact exercise, or even a kids play area for cornhole or some other low impact sport. I think it's absolutely shameful that the majority of the board disenfranchised Hatfield volunteers, the backbone of our community. Nobody on this board really needs the help of those ideas and input to make this township great, but they've been disenfranchised by voting to pause the PAC and by eliminating season passes for all Hatfield volunteers not associated with the police and fire. As a reminder to all of these board members, I think I'm the only one here sitting when the pool was put in. When the Aquatic Center project was developed, there were several committees put together to gather ideas on how to make our pool a great asset to our community. This idea was great then, and it's still a great idea today, and I hope to see some action on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Okay. Seeing none, we will move to the consent items. The treasurer's report for July. The paid bills, $247,036.46. Unpaid bills, $379,835.75. The VMSC monthly report for July and the HTMA monthly budget report for July 14th, 2026. Also, the North Penn Water Authority meeting minutes for June 23rd, 2026. And I know Commissioner DeLassio wanted to make a comment on one of these items. Go ahead.
Thank you, President Mastraka. I just wanted, normally we approve these without much discussion, but I read the HTMA minutes, and a resident in Ward 2, my ward, Ralph Harvey, has served for 30 years on the HDMA and is now retiring, and I didn't want that to go unnoticed and called out to thank for a volunteer who served on that board for 30 years. So thank you, Ralph, and to your family for serving.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay, do I have a motion to approve these consent items?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner DeLassio, seconded by Commissioner Zipfel. All in favor of these consent items, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it has passed. Okay, we're going to move into special items. Our first special item tonight is the Hatfield Declaration of Independence video. And I'd like to call up Nate and Mr. Gordon. Come on up. Come on up to the podium. Very noisy. Okay, this is on, correct? Yep, it's on. All right. As part of Hatfield's celebration of America's 250th anniversary, we wanted to find a meaningful way to recognize the history behind the important milestones and at the same time make it something that truly represented our community. That idea became a special video presentation of the Declaration of Independence featuring 66 people from throughout the Hatfield community reading the Declaration together. Tonight, I want to recognize two very special people who took the idea and made it a reality, and that's Nate Berge and Jay Gordon. It is difficult to appreciate just how much work went into producing this video. Coordinating 66 different people meant countless phone calls and emails, scheduling and rescheduling recording sessions, identifying locations, setting up equipment, recording each participant, organizing all of the footage, and then bringing dozens of individual recordings together into one finished presentation. And once the filming was complete, there was still an enormous amount of work to do. The footage had to be reviewed, organized, edited, and the 66 individual contributions became one seamless telling of the Declaration of Independence. This was not something that came together in a few hours or even a few days. Nate and Jay invested a tremendous amount of their own time, energy, and talent into this project. The finished product is something our community can be proud of and something that will remain part of Hatfield's history long after the 250th anniversary celebration is over. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners and the entire Hatfield community, I want to give you a sincere thank you to Nate and Jay for everything you put into this making of the project. At this time, I'd like to ask Jay Gordon and Nate Berge to come to the podium. And Nate and Jay, thank you again for everything you did, your incredible effort in helping us tell this important piece of America's story through the people of Hatfield. Now I'll turn it over to the two of you, and I want to give you these Hatfield Hero Awards, as you know, and you can introduce your video.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's a great pleasure working with Jay on this project. Great opening my perspective to a lot of different people in Hatfield and better seeing the community for all the people here. You know, I've been very focused on my career, you know, the past 10 years, but I think this year has been a start of opening my horizons and seeing the world for what it is and all the people that we have here. So it's great being involved in Hatfield and seeing all the great people here. So.
I never felt like more like the community relations coordinator of Hatfield Township than we did making this video. Being out in the community, meeting people, capturing these video segments was a lot of fun and a very rewarding experience for me as an employee of the township. I feel like it was divine providence that led Nate and us to cross paths again. I've known Nate for a long time. Back when I worked at Doc Mennonite Academy, Nate was a student there, and we knew of Nate's ability as a video editor, and asked him to make a couple of videos for the school, which he did, and he did a fantastic job, and I've felt guilty ever since that we weren't able to pay him a whole lot for those, maybe nothing for those, come to think of it. But here we are, 10, 15 years later almost, and we had an opportunity to work together again. And I have never worked with a video editor as talented and as accomplished as Nate. What he did, and you'll see in the intro to the video, he did all that, the voiceover, everything. He is a really talented young man, and I'm looking forward to see what the rest of his career has in store. This was a meaningful project, and I do hope Hatfield was proud of it. We had a blast making it, and I hope, I envision the people who spoke in this video showing this to their kids and grandkids and, 20, 30, 40 years down the line. I hope that's the case. Thanks for your taking the time to watch it tonight, and for giving Nate and I a little prop there. I appreciate it.
No, I'm good.
The people of simple yet profound. They read the words that help shape a nation. If you were to follow the tracks that built this town 30 miles south and 250 years back, you'd be standing where these words were spoken for the first time in history. While the words have been studied, debated, celebrated, and challenged ever since, they've remained a crucial part of the American story. You're about to hear them spoken by a veteran who fought to defend them, by hands that sign them for ears that have never heard them, by employers who turn hard-won liberty into livelihoods for their neighbors, who show up every morning, who load the trucks, and who drive them through this community, by a second grader who will carry them the furthest, and a man who has spent a lifetime learning what these words ask of us. Different ages, different backgrounds, different perspectives. People from all walks of life. People like you. Because ordinary people in ordinary places are exactly who these words were written for. That's why they still need to be spoken. Together, these words form a reminder that while we may not always agree, we share a common inheritance and a common future. These words invite every generation into the same conversation, what it means to be an American. It's not about what pulls us apart, it's about what has held us together for 2.5 centuries. It's about what these words continue to ask of us today. This is your Hatfield. This is your declaration.
In Congress, July 4, 1776.
The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America.
When in the course of human events,
it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another,
and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them.
A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
That all men are created equal.
That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men,
deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends,
it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it.
And to institute new government,
laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form.
as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes.
And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed.
But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism,
it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government.
The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states.
To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good.
He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained.
He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only.
He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from their depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people.
He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected.
Whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise.
The state, remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands.
He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers.
He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries.
He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance.
He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures.
He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws.
Giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation.
For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us.
For protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states.
For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world.
For imposing taxes on us without our consent.
For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury.
For transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses.
For abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province.
Establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries, so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies.
For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments.
For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever.
He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us.
He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people.
He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny.
Already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy,
scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages,
and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation.
He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands.
He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known role of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury.
A prince, whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant, is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren.
We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us.
We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here.
We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity.
And we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations,
which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence.
They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity.
We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled,
appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions,
do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies,
solemnly publish and declare that these United Colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states.
That they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown.
And that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved.
And that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce,
and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do.
For the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence,
we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
If I could add a couple of thank yous to that. If you didn't notice, there were a few people that had Hatfield 250 underneath there, right? And that is a committee that was organized years ago. And he's going to love me for this, but Frank DeMaria is sitting in the back, and he hates. Him and his wife put together, the start of the committee. Oh gosh, I remember the first time you came in and you started talking about Hatfield 250, and I started doing math. I'm like, wow, that is years from now. And you know what? 2022. And it needed to be, because that is a group that is small but mighty, and they did an unbelievable job, not just as a part of this, but for many, Commissioner Deb Zimmerman, I see she's a part of it as well. They did a lot of different things throughout the year, this year, and even beforehand, last year, and they're not done. There's a number of events coming up that we'll make the public aware of. They did a fantastic job, and a tremendous thank you. These are all volunteer residents of the Hatfield area, and consider everybody's a little bit of a history geek, myself included, and that's a great thing. And they turned this into a wonderful opportunity and a wonderful event. So thank you, not just for this, but for everything you did for July 4th and throughout the year. So thanks to the group.
And thank you again to our Hatfield heroes, Nate and Jay. Thank you so much. And so we'll move on with the agenda, if that's okay. We have another meeting at 7:30. So the Pulte hearing will be at 7:30. So if anybody's here for that and you want to do something else and come back at 7:30, you're welcome to do that, but you're also welcome to stay. Okay. So we're going to go to committee reports. And the first one is Planning and Zoning Committee with Commissioner DeLessio.
Thank you, President Mistraka.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. So we had a planning and zoning meeting yesterday morning. We had an applicant from New York, Brookfield Asset Management Team, to talk to us about the property at 2750 Bethlehem Pike. So for those, just to give you a spatial, if you're coming down the 309 Expressway, where it ends at Berge Light, on your left is Peruzzi, on your right is some open land where Century House used to be, and the billiard store. This asset management group owns all of that property very deep back and going out all the way on to Unionville Pike. So they are coming to the zoning hearing board on September 24th to talk about a proposal where they would lease to Mannheim, which you may realize is further down south on 309, the car auction place. They are growing and they need more room and they need a place to park more cars. So they're looking at using that piece of property that's further up north at 309 as a place to build a 2,500 space parking lot for Mannheim. Their primary access would be off 309 there. We all know that's a really busy area. But they would have a secondary access off Unionville Pike that would not be at North Penn Avenue. It would be a new access that they would create around the 3300 block of Unionville Pike. Our zoning officer is going to be sending letters to all residents along Unionville Pike. Half are in my ward, Ward 2. The other side of the street is Shahidul's Ward 3, letting them know about this zoning hearing board if they want to come out on September 21st and hear about this applicant's proposal for that 2,500 space parking lot on that land. Also coming to zoning hearing board on the 24th will be HD Paving. They're located on Walnut Street behind Blue Tide Car Wash. They're making an application to put fuel tanks onto their property, so they'll be coming to the zoning hearing board to request a modification. They have the space to put the fuel tanks. They're a paving company. That should be rather straightforward, but come to the zoning hearing board if you have an interest in that application. Also at our workshop meeting on September 9th, Sheets near Zoto's was recently at the Planning Commission. They got a unanimous approval to go forward, so they're going to be coming to our September 9th workshop to talk about their proposal and show plans of what that's going to look like, how they see people getting in and out of their property. There's also going to be a discussion from Brooks Instruments. Brooks is the largest employer in the borough. and they are growing, and they need a little bit more parking, about 50 to 70 spaces. And they found through working with the borough on their parcel that a tiny bit where their parking lot is envisioned to go actually crosses into a bit of Hatfield Township. So they're having to go to both the borough and the township to look at their stormwater and their zoning. Their access is off Vine Street, and the parking lot is deep behind their buildings. So it doesn't seem like people will notice this parking lot going in. They were really good applicants about being fencing and putting trees in, but they're going to come and talk to us more at our September 9th workshop. And that is it I have for planning and zoning this evening, unless there are any questions.
Any questions? And seeing none, we will go to Public Works Committee with Commissioner Zipfel.
Okay, just a couple of quick updates. Actually, one primary update. We are very close to completing the 2026 road paving program. It's nearly complete right now. Want to thank it's J.D. Morrissey, right, AB? J.D. Morrissey, the paving contractor. Many of you will see the work that's already been done, and all the roads in this year's program have been paved. We invested approximately $1 million in our roads this year. Improvements were done on Stewart Drive, Claremont, Brentwood, Clemens Road, and Richmond Road. And these obviously are significant improvements to our roadways and a kind of an ongoing obligation that we committed ourselves to over, I think it's a 15-year period of time, that within a 15-year period of time, all of the Hatfield Township roads would have been paved. Definitely want to thank the Public Works Department for an incredible effort that they put in, as they always do, and J.D. Morrissey for the work in getting the projects completed. So real close to being completed, and then we'll be looking towards next year. Nothing else.
Thank you. Good news. Okay, for our Parks and Rec Committee report, I'm just going to be really quick because of time, but I want to just say thank you to our Parks and Rec Director, Ashley Brody, for the good job for actually our whole community. Our Parks and Rec Department got a award from the Pennsylvania Parks and Rec Association, and that was called the Good Job Award, and that was given a couple weeks ago. So we're really proud of our Parks and Rec Department and the great work they do. Compared to other places in the state, we are, I think, the best. So that was very exciting. We had excellent concerts all summer, so we wrapped that up on Monday. And if you want to just note this, that October 3rd will be our 5K, and the October Feast will be that day too. So that will be, AM radio will be there for the concert. So we will see you there. And then I'll have more to say in September. And now I will go to the Public Safety Committee with Vice President Partha.
Thank you, President Lustrico. July was always busy month, so also lots of activities, and our Hatfield Police are doing tremendous job. So here's the report. July was another active month for Hatfield Police Department, with officers responding about 2,920 calls for services, whilst maintaining a strong focus on crime prevention, traffic safety, community engagement. During this month, the department handled 16 Part 1 crime and 37 Part 2 crimes. Traffic safety remained a significant priority. Officer investigated about 60 vehicle crashes, including 16 reportable crashes, and conducted 359 traffic stops and 220 selective enforcement details. This effort results in 216 warnings and 189 summons. The department also participated in PANDOT-sponsored aggressive drivers, buckle up, and DUI roving enforcement details on July 1st, 2nd, 5th, 16th, and 17th, supplementing the department regulars efforts to promote safer driving throughout the communities. And beyond this enforcement, maintaining a visible and positive presence in the community continues to be an important part of department works. Officers conducted 862 community engagement patrol activities during July and participated in a number of community events, including Variety Club Community Day, Bangladeshi American Culture Festival Day, PAL Summer Camp event, and Chapman Scholarship Award presentation. July actively reflects the board rules our officers play every day, from responding to calls and investigating crimes and crashes to traffic enforcement and community outreach. the Hatfield Police Department continues to emphasize public safety, proactive policing, and a strong relationship with the resident and organization we serve. And thank you. Thank you, Chief. Yeah, back to President.
Sure, that's okay.
Oh, sorry, another one. I forgot. So another one is like another the stop sign discussion regarding the fairgrounds and Elroy Road. So I live in the Truman Drive. So it is most important. I'm seeing last almost like 8-9 years, and we need a stop sign maybe discussion. And I'll go to our to Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President. So this is a topic that has come up a few times over the years. Like most of the things we address in this room, it begins with resident feedback, and we've heard from several residents in this vicinity where you see the star specifically here at this intersection, which actually is in between Commissioner Zipfel and Commissioner Partha, so both very familiar with this corridor. A lot of parents in the section that I'm highlighting here have children that walk to Penfield Middle School. And over the years, we do have a crosswalk, someone who helps them cross over closer to the school, but not at this intersection. So we had our engineer do an analysis and a quick study to give us some direction on what would be recommended to make this area safer for the children crossing. And based on the study, based on the speed, sight distance limitations, and the pedestrian activity, our engineers are recommending turning this into a four-way stop, which would be an installation of a stop sign here on Fairgrounds as you approached Fisher and Elroy, and then one as well on the other side when you're leaving Elroy coming toward the other section of Elroy, and there's Fisher's on the left. So the process for stop sign installation, it requires an ordinance in order to make it enforceable for our police. These are usually how the conversations go. We get feedback from our residents. We do a study. Stop signs have to be justified by an engineer on several different criteria, which this did meet. So if the board would like to move forward, what we'd need is a motion to advertise an ordinance, and then in September, we can come back and consider adoption. At that point, the signs can go up, and the police department then can enforce that stop sign. Just in time for the school season as well. We hope it's an improvement that makes it safer for the kids in our community.
I just want to add one thing, like, I think we already know because we live next to each other, and there was a hill up, downhill. So normally the driver, like, it's a speed limit, whatever speed limit, people used to drive fast. So when the school start, like school happen on the school times, kids always crossing, and it's very obvious, like, they cannot see that either any child or any pedestrian is crossing the road. So I think it would be, we should move it to advertise. Yeah.
If you'll make the motion, I'm certainly happy to second.
I want to make a motion to advertise this for putting a stop sign. A stop sign on Fairgrounds and Elroy.
Yeah. And I have a second?
Second, yep.
Second by Commissioner Zipfel.
Before we vote, though, I just wanted to point out, Commissioner Partha and I, we live like almost across the street from each other. This is I call it the Hatfield Raceway. That Fairgrounds has been forever, for as long as I've been here, almost 30 years. You can just hear it every day. Yeah. People at the top of the hill go as fast as they possibly can until they can get to the next stop sign, and vice versa. And so I think this is a very good thing for us to explore. Chief, I would only just add one thing is, because any kind of new stop sign or new, adjustment is different for people. I think the people who are speeders are regular speeders. So maybe a little, if you don't mind, a little extra enforcement at the beginning of this if it gets approved, because I think people then are going to they're so used to speeding, I think they're going to blow through it. And so it's going to take some time for them to realize what's going on, and that would be greatly appreciated.
Better keep your foot off the pedal.
I will make sure me and my family do exactly that. So.
And Commissioners, just to follow up on that, the study did show that the speeding is very higher than we would like. So it supports exactly what you're saying, which is justifying.
I'll digress for a second. I'm convinced that there was a motorcycle that was a blur that I could see from my house, because I'm 3 houses in from the street. That was a blur through the trees. Had to have been doing, I'm going to say, conservatively 80 miles an hour. And this is not long enough for somebody to be able to get to that point. If somebody told me we're doing more, I would not have been shocked based on the speed, what I saw, and the sound. So if this even makes a dent in it, it's a great idea.
Okay, so it's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor of a motion to advertise an ordinance, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is passed. Okay, I'm going to go to the finance report. I did forget one thing from my Parks and Rec report, and I will announce it in September, but on September 19th, we have recycling, leaf branch, and cardboard drop-off, 8 to 12 p.m., and also the Dogapalooza will be 11 to 2 p.m. on September 19th. So look forward to that. Okay. For our finance report, the township's 2027 budget process is now underway. Over the past week, management has been meeting with department heads to begin discussions about their priorities, anticipated expenses, capital needs, and goals for the coming year. Township staff will use those discussions to put together the initial framework for the 2027 budget. Once that framework is complete, we will hold a public budget workshop where the Board of Commissioners can review the proposed budget in detail, ask questions, discuss priorities, and make any necessary changes. The public will also have an opportunity to hear those discussions before the final budget is considered for adoption in December. Good budgeting is not something that happens once a year. Our management and finance teams monitor revenues and expenses on a daily basis throughout the year. That ongoing attention allows us to make informed decisions, plan responsibly for future needs, and ensure the taxpayer dollars are being used wisely. And I can attest to that. It's very true. I want to thank our finance director, Dave Bernhauser, for his leadership and diligence throughout the year, as well as our entire staff for the work they put into developing and managing the township's budget. We take a great deal of pride in maintaining a strong financial position while continuing to invest in the services and infrastructure that our residents expect. So, and again, thank you to Mr. Bibro. I know you had a lot of meetings this week for the budget, so I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was a great week.
And so we'll move to the Hatfield Aquatic Center with Commissioner DeLassio.
Thank you, President Lastraka. So sadly, you could tell the weather has changed. Our pool season is coming to an end so soon. We are open daily, normal hours for the rest of this week until Sunday the 30th. But beginning Monday, August 31st through September 4th, we will only be open from 4 to 8 p.m. That is because we had to say farewell and thank you to our largely student lifeguard team. So thank you to all of our student employees, and happy back to school and have a great year. We'll return to normal hours on Saturday and Sunday of Labor Day weekend, as well as Monday, but we'll close early on Monday at 3:45 so that our staff can also enjoy the Labor Day holiday. So that will be the last full day of pool activities, Monday of Labor Day. And then our last actual activity is a very popular Dogapalooza on Saturday, September 19th. I wanted to announce, because there's a lot of interest in the Pool Advisory Committee and having detailed discussions, all of our contract negotiations with our borough partners are still ongoing, but given the interest, we have set aside a date, which is going to be Wednesday, October 7th at 7 p.m. here in the Township Building to have a very detailed end-of-season public meeting. So all interested parties and all commissioners can come to this. It'll be led by Scott and JT, our assistant manager, and our pool manager. We'll go through attendance, both resident, non-residents. We can look in our financials in detail and come to alignment on what they are. Talk about our maintenance needs and any opportunities for improvement. Also, I wanted to announce that everybody should be on the lookout for our normal end-of-year survey on your experience at the Aquatic Center. So there's going to be 5 ways where you can get access to the survey. There's going to be a QR code posted at the Hatfield Aquatic Center that you can click on with your phone camera and get to the survey. It's going to be posted in our newsletter, our quarterly printed newsletter that goes out to everyone's household that should be coming out shortly. For those who've signed up for text alerts about the pool, you'll get the link via text alert for the survey. And the 2 final places will also post the links on our website and share them on our Facebook page. And then I have one final thing that I'm going to go to the podium to read. This came to us from a resident, and JT Pool Manager, I'm going to ask you to come to the podium because I'm going to like to read it on this individual's behalf. Okay?
Sorry.
So what I'm going to read to you now comes to us from John Slinka, who is the president of the Hatfield Sharks swim and dive team. So, according to John, I am writing to express our team's gratitude for the continued support and relationship we have with John Taylor. His commitment to sustaining a partnership with our team goes beyond what anyone could expect. Other teams hear about our partnership with the Hatfield Aquatic Center, and specifically with John, and are jealous of the amazing support system we have here. It is undoubtedly John's positive attitude that makes our families feel so welcome. Whether they are residents or non-residents, the pool is a special place, in large part because of the atmosphere that is created by John and his team. I think now of our last home meet of the season and the pressure I felt trying to ensure our meet finished at a reasonable hour, especially since it was senior night. With John's input, we were able to begin 15 minutes early, and it set the tone for a successful meet. But that isn't what stood out to me. What truly stood out at the end of this meet was seeing John and his team standing near the pool as the meet finished, and particularly seeing the joy they shared in watching our team win its third meet of the season. For perspective, this team has not had 3 wins in 15 years. The last thing I want to share is what this partnership has meant to the growth of our team. My family joined the swim team 6 years ago. That season, the team had 67 swimmers. For summer swim this year, for summer swim, that number is about as low as it can get for a team. We worked incredibly hard to cultivate an atmosphere that made Hatfield a destination for children and parents alike. This year, our team had the second highest number of swimmers in the league. 213 children joined the team. That's up from 67. Every season, I meet with John to go over the logistics. We discuss what worked, what needs improvement. This season, as you're well aware, we put a great emphasis on our end-of-year splash party. With John's support, I can happily report that the party was a huge success. This team is finally making Hatfield proud. It has been a long process, but today, not only is our pool the envy of the league, the partnership we have built, the team we have become, and our commitment to being community-driven are equally the envy of this league. John and his team have been instrumental in making that possible. We cannot thank John enough for all he does, and I wanted to write to specifically share how important he has been to our team and its success. Thank you for everything. Signed, John Slinka, President of the Hatfield Shark Swim Team and Dive Team.
Thank you
John,
so much.
Thank you. We have just a little tangible memento. It says inspire, which is clearly what you've done. This memo talks a lot about your team. I hope you'd say a few words about what you've done, but mention your team members' names specifically, please, if you will, and take the little inspire. Thank you, John.
Don't know what to say, but thank you to John Slinka and the rest of the Hatfield swim team. It helps growing up here and having a stake in it because don't look like it now, but I was a swimmer, and we had a great run there at the Hatfield Aquatic Center, or Hatfield Pool in the good old days. But no, it's definitely a great investment that we've made in the swim team over the years, just to build it up. It's not a one-man show, but I thank you for the recognition. But I couldn't have done it without Aaron, Scott, Dave, and the rest of the pool advisory board. The off-season planning that we do is just it's so critical to how we're going to function from year to year. And we've come up collectively with some really good policies to encourage our kids to join the swim team and be successful. And it wouldn't have happened without a team of experts around me, around John Slinka, and around the rest of the Hatfield community. So just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for the recognition. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move into action items. Letter A, Township Engineer appointment. Should I send that over to you? Yeah.
Take it. Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, President Lestracco. So this item, we're recommending switching our township engineer, switching the company, yet the same face will remain on the dais, whether that's a good or a bad thing. We all know it's a good thing. So Brian had a great opportunity. We have a relationship with Gilmore. We believe this is a great partnership, and we're excited to continue to work with Brian to serve our community with his new company over at Gilmore.
And before motion, I also want to say that we've had really great luck with Arrow. Obviously, they brought us you, or your company before brought us you, or the company before that, and your colleagues that helped us. If you weren't able to come to somebody's house, we always had backup, and they were always excellent and professional. So I just want to say thank you for your team, your current team. So with that, do I have a motion to appoint Gilmore Associates Incorporated?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Andrus, seconded by Commissioner Zipfel. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is passed.
Madam President, can I ask
Did
you
I
to
miss
also
it?
make a motion
Yep.
to retain Arrow Consulting as needed during the transition or in the event of a conflict? If someone could make that motion?
Sure. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Commissioner Zipfel, seconded by Vice President Partha. All in favor of retaining Arrow Consulting as needed during the transition or in the event of a conflict, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, yep, sorry about that.
Aaron, Brian, you want to share something? I think I saw like you're about to say something.
I just wanted to say thank you, and I have always appreciated the support, and the change for me, was hoping that this would also take place. So I greatly appreciate all the support from the township for all these years. So I look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you. Okay, letter B, establishing the Human Relation Commission, ordinance number 714, and this is for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Commissioner Zipfel, seconded by Vice President Partha. All in favor of the
Hold on, before we do.
Before we do that, discussion, please.
Couple of things. I have someone to thank and
Yep.
some questions that I wanted to answer for you. So first, I'll try and be brief, even though in the past on this subject I've pontificated. I know that. Actually, let me start with the thank you. Joseph Mueller is with us tonight. I want to tell you he is a remarkably thoughtful and insightful resident. As commissioners, we don't get the opportunity to often interact with people on that kind of level, from the kind of a thoughtfulness and a consideration level. More often than not, and we understand, it's someone who has a problem in their backyard or in the front yard or something else, and they have a concern or a complaint, and that's what lands on our desk. And then, of course, we quickly pass it on to our very capable township manager. But this was a little different. So when the Human Relations Ordinance came to us, brought to us by a couple other commissioners, there was some great discussion, public and private, which was wonderful. And so on a personal level, I want to thank Joseph because he and I had a couple of different conversations, one in particular that, quite frankly, as long as I've been doing this goes down as one of the best conversations I've ever had with a resident, and I want to thank him for his thoughtfulness throughout this. In addition to that, I will tell you that what we did is the original version of what we had. We made some changes to it, put some kind of guardrails or clarifications, really, so that it was clear that, and Joseph gave us the answer, it was voluntary confidential mediation. This is not a scenario where we have created an ordinance where we've created a brand new court of law here in Hatfield, which was one of my concerns originally. It's also, the way it's crafted, not a scenario where there's penalties where a neighbor's going to go after a neighbor. It's related to employment law and housing, okay? And it is for those people who are, if an event takes place here in Hatfield, for example, if an employer does something that's inconsistent with the act, then someone who even lives outside of Hatfield, as I understand it, could bring an action because the defendant, if you will, or the respondent in this scenario, would be the events would be impacted or would fall within the purview of the statute itself. Now, I say all this because I'm a proponent of this, and I'll bore you one more time with it. I worked for the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, which is kind of the structural foundation for this. It is not an uncommon ordinance, as Joseph had said. It started with all the major cities at some point, and then over the years has been developed in the smaller towns. I equally ask the question why, because I know the work that I do, that there's a number of levels of protection. Here's the reasons why from my perspective. There are undoubtedly gaps between federal and state law, in particular state law, that do not cover protected categories that, quite frankly, should have been long ago. And I think everyone here agrees completely that people should not be treated or mistreated in a manner because of any particular classification, whether it's age, race, gender, sexual orientation, or any other. We expect and we want to memorialize here for our town that that's how we feel as a township as well, and that's a significant part of it for me. And then putting the guardrails that I talked about it, which I think is really good because it allows for that mediation opportunity. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for people if they have a concern. Knock wood, I hope that nothing happens and it is a not often used ordinance at all, okay? In which case, the cost associated with it should be dramatically minimal, if not zero. I will be totally frank, there was only one consideration after the adjustments. There's only one consideration I'm not pleased with, but it is not going to stand in the way of my voting yes. This is for reasons that it's not really for us to kind of dive into this evening, but not each ward commissioner has an appointment to this committee. That's unusual for us. I'm not particularly a big fan of that. But I did speak with a couple of commissioners, and I do know that they'll be considering people for these positions. And so I know that this is unique, but I will tell you that one of the things that I want to do is I'd like to be a board member. I've never put myself in that position, but without patting myself in the back, I'm a labor lawyer for 30 years who has not only worked for the PHRC, but has done trainings with and for the PHRC for the last 30 years, probably more than a few hundred. Ironically, just did one this morning that included some of the protections under the PHRA and the EEOC. So while that's not something that we need to vote on tonight, when we do get to the point when we make a decision as to who's going to be board members, I've offered myself up and I'd like to be a part of it. One last thing, I think Joseph, if he's interested, would be a wonderful contributor to the group. And so I'm putting you on the spot. You don't have to say anything tonight. If you're interested, you got my full support. So hopefully that answers the questions that you have. I really think that, Hatfield residents and Hatfield companies treat each other with great respect. The outside world maybe sometimes doesn't, but we really have created a world of civility here, a safe harbor of civility. So with any luck, this is an opportunity for us to show our commitment to, the protections afforded of it, and then let's all hope that it never has to be used. So with that, if we've already had a motion and a second, right?
We did.
I want to make one comment. So regarding the why we are establishing this this Human Relations Commission. So county recently have like Human Relations Commission. I am also one of the board member over there. So we see how many complaints we got. We see very minimal, which is good, but in the other sense, it still have gap, what the Tom say, I will echo this one. So if you want to give the service to the root level, to the residents, so many people don't know, how to proceed with the county, how to proceed with the state, even how to go to the federal level. But if township offer the same services, we are not here, not penalize anyone for any fine or doing any fine. So we are just giving the services, right? So that's one of the reasons we are establishing these Human Relations Commissions to reduce the gap between the residents and make it more accessible for the community. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, discussion? Okay. Hearing none. It's been properly moved and seconded, so all in favor of establishing a Human Relations Commission, ordinance number 714, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it has passed. We will move on to letter C, Grant Opportunity Multimodal Transportation Fund, Resolution 2618.
Thanks, President LaStraka. I'll take it from here, and we are running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to be very quick. One of the last things we wanted to accomplish related to our police station was streetscape improvements along Cowpath Road. I think everybody has driven down this road a few times. Our beautiful new police station, and then we have this area that we think needs some significant improvement. So we're pursuing grant funding that would pay for streetscaping and sidewalks that could potentially look like this along our corridor. This area, as it currently is, could look like this. So this is actually, I sketched this with my watercolor kit, but this is a potential outcome of what we're pursuing. It was something that we had talked about when we improved that corridor along Cowpath. Bowman, our traffic engineers, will submit the application. It's the Multimodal Transportation Fund, which this is going to be an over $1 million application. However, there's no local match. Our match is simply the design and the engineering work that will go into this. So hopefully we have our support, as we always have, from Senator Collette and Representative Malagary, and we can do a really good job to improve this corridor. We appreciate one of our neighbors on the corner, the mosque, who has done a very good job of new plantings and some other improvements there. So we will connect to that area and improve that whole area. So we'll work together to improve that if we receive these funds. So we just need a motion for the resolution that we can submit with the grant application.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Parthas, seconded by Commissioner DeLisio. All in favor of Resolution 2618, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is passed. We're on to letter D, the North Penn School District MOU Police Partnership, Resolution 2619.
I will tee it off, but I'm going to need a little assistance here. As many of you know, the school district is in the process of forming its own police department. So as that happens, there are partnerships being established and agreements being drafted and considered. Chief's been involved throughout and can explain a little further on what is before the board tonight.
Thank you.
So much of this is like we already have in dealing with security. Now, when they become a police department, there's a little bit more weight to that. So it's kind of like our mutual aid resolutions with all of our surrounding townships. We're all agreeing to help one another out. This is the simplicity of it. There's still some things that have to come to light when the department actually takes its footing. We don't know yet when that may actually spring forward, but everybody's working on that. So this is just an agreement saying we agree to all work together and get to where we have to be to keep all the kids safe.
Okay, any questions? Okay. So do I have a motion for Grant Opportunity Multimodal Transportation Fund? No, sorry, North Penn School District MOU Police Partnership. Do I have a motion for Resolution 2619?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Andrus.
Second.
Second by Commissioner DeLisio. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is passed. Letter E, establishing findings regarding the declared invalidity, I can't say this word, I'm sorry. Invalidity, thank you, of zoning ordinance as it relates to data center uses and energy generation systems. Resolution 2620. I will send that over to our solicitor.
Sure. If the board remembers, on August 5th, we took advantage and invoked the self-cure provisions of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. That state statute requires us within 30 days to actually list the provisions in our code that we feel does not comply and is in need of fixing. So this resolution does that. We do have a catch-all in our LI district that calls for any use that's not listed as a permitted use is permitted in the LI district. However, that catch-all falls short of providing appropriate regulations for data centers and energy generation systems. So we have delineated what we would like to do as far as passing a new ordinance, which we're required to do within 60 days of August 5th. So passing this resolution keeps us in step for this process.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion for Resolution 2620?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Zipfel, seconded by Vice President Partha. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is passed. And we will go to Township Reports, Stormwater Management Ordinance Update, Ordinance 717.
Thank you, President Lestracco. This I would consider a housekeeping item. We had several updates needed to be changed in our stormwater management ordinance that were required by the state to meet our requirements. I won't get into the technicalities. Brian, since we just reappointed you, we'll give you 25 seconds to but in all seriousness, we do have a meeting in between the meetings. So, Brian, if you could, just a quick summary on what we needed to update to meet the standards set forth by the state that is in front of the board tonight.
There were some barely perceptible changes that DEP required. It's stuff that honestly probably will not even be apparent as we go through land development approvals and such. So it was just a couple of different things that DEP says you must have in your ordinances to be compliant with the MS4 program. So.
And the ordinance in its entirety is available at the link for any of the residents that would like to read it. It'll be on our website as well. And it is ready for consideration by the board. It's been advertised and it's in front of you for consideration tonight. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Commissioners.
Okay. This is for a motion to authorize advertisement of the ordinance. Are there any other questions? Okay.
Actually, we'd like you to vote on the ordinance.
Let's vote on the ordinance. Thank you. It's
okay.
But that's, I'm sorry, ordinance 717. We're going to vote on the ordinance, so I need somebody to make a motion. Okay. Motion by Commissioner DeLassio.
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Partha. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it has passed. Before we go to solicitor's report, while this 7:30 hearing is setting up, we are planning to have an executive session to discuss litigation, and that'll be a very brief executive session before the public hearing, we hope. So I'll go to the solicitor's report.
I would like to have an executive session to discuss litigation.
Good update.
And you are granted.
Thank you.
Okay. Citizens' comments is next.
I just need
Oh,
one quick
sorry.
minute. It's a good things happening is that there's apparently a number of different town hall meetings coming our way for a couple of different issues. Not to be outdone, only because I guess I've done this maybe about a dozen times or so. Ward 4 is going to have its own town hall meeting. I'm looking for September 15th, and I don't if you or the staff, Aaron, can attend. That's great, or you and Chief. If not, then I fully understand. But looking for Ward 4 Town Hall will cover all the Ps. And those of you in Ward 4 are probably sick of me hearing say it. Public safety, pool, park, paving, potholes, people, all the different things. And pretty much any of the concerns that you have or considerations that you want us to think about, upcoming events upcoming things that we're working on here. So September 15th, 6:30 here in the building. And once I get that fully confirmed with staff and all this worked out, we'll put something out on Facebook and sometimes we've had, dozens of people and sometimes we've had 5. So with any luck, we'll have a good crowd. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Citizens' comments, you may come to the microphone if you have any comments, and please state your name and where you live. And again, these are comments. Thank you.
Do I have to state my name again?
Just in case. Yes.
My name's Jeff Clark. I live at 2105 Hidden Meadow. I had 2 comments, but a third with the stop sign discussion. Yeah, we need a stop sign there. I mean, I don't live in the area, but I used to go to Order for Auction a lot. And that's how I come out Elroy to make the left on the fairgrounds. It was fun. So get a stop sign there.
Thank you.
You mentioned potholes. There is a moon crater at the right turn lane of North Broad and Cowpath. That right in front of Wawa. I mean, I am now cutting through Wawa's parking lot, not to avoid the light, but so if the traffic's over far enough, I'm not putting my wheel into it. So, my second comment is...
Can I just quickly on that one? So those are 2 state roads. We have notified PennDOT probably a dozen times about that
was gonna be
pothole.
my other question.
Is
Who's
it-
responsible?
So it's a state road, so the state owns and maintains that road. We do our best to nudge the state, and they have been responsive, but this one is hanging out there. So we'll continue to call and email and push.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
My other comment, a lot of times I can't make meetings, but it seems like it takes forever to post the minutes. Can we please, I mean, at least within a month?
I can comment on that. Yeah, so we don't post the meeting minutes until they're approved by the board the following
Right,
month.
I understand that.
We do post the video on the YouTube by Friday usually of every week. So if you want to watch the video, we have a YouTube channel. Every meeting video is posted maybe even by Thursday of each week, whenever Justin can.
Unfortunately, the YouTube channel and the acoustics in this building and my hearing is, I have a hard time under it. I've tried watching them,
Oh, okay.
but
I got you. Yeah, so we can't post the minutes until they're approved, just in case there's any amendments, but we will move as quickly as we can. I appreciate the feedback.
thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Okay. So we will move to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner DeLassio.
Second.
Second by Vice President Partha. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Ready? Okay, I'm going to hand the meeting over to Kristen Pianzio. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's August 26, 2026. This is the fifth hearing on the Pulte application. Tonight, the township is presenting its case. Mr. Panzer, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
Go right ahead.
So our first witness will be Brian McAdam, PE.
Let's have him sworn in.
Could you state your full name, please?
Brian McAdam, BRYANMCADAM.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So Brian, would you be kind enough to identify yourself, your profession, your professional address?
Thank you, yes. Brian McAdam, I am the Hatfield Township engineer, currently work for Arrow Consulting, located in Doylestown.
And you're a professional engineer?
I'm a professional engineer licensed in Pennsylvania.
How long have you been so licensed?
Licensed since, I believe, 1991.
And over what period of time have you been the municipal engineer for Hatfield Township?
I've been the appointed engineer since 2013.
And describe for us your role as municipal engineer.
As the township engineer, we review land development plans, prepare review letters to ensure compliance with the appropriate township ordinances.
So you're familiar with the Hatfield Township zoning ordinance, subdivision land development ordinances?
Yes.
And do you have any responsibility for the building permit process?
Yes, I have reviewed building permit plans through the years with Hatfield.
So what's your role in that process?
When an applicant is proposing to construct a home, we review what's called a plot plan to determine that the dwelling, or in the case of a commercial building, that they are located within the appropriate setbacks, ensure that impervious surface coverage and building coverages have been met. We review the grading and drainage aspects of the plan and appropriately make a recommendation to the township.
Now, you've provided to us a curriculum vitae or resume. We've marked that as Exhibit T1 for Township 1. Showing you T1, is that in fact your CV?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Current and accurate?
Yes.
So if I were to ask you further questions about your background or qualifications, it'd be consistent with that CV?
Yes, it would.
At this point, I'm prepared to offer Mr. McAdam as a expert in civil engineering. subject to voir dire.
Any objection?
I have no objection.
Is there any party in the room that has objections? I see no hands. He is accepted as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
And move to admit the CV, please.
Any objection? It's accepted.
So, Mr. McAdam, you prepared a report at my request. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And we've marked that report as Exhibit T2, Township 2. What was the purpose of the report?
It was to do a cursory review of the exhibits as presented that were dated March 30th, 2026. They included an overall conditional use plan, various larger scale conditional use plans, an aerial plan, aerial site plan, as well as an open space plan and a fire truck exhibit.
So would it be fair to say that you have been present during these serial conditional use hearings over the last, I don't even know, 2 years?
Yes, I have.
That was the first version of the Pulte conditional use for a cluster, and then the amended conditional use application for cluster development for 162 dwelling units?
Yes.
We've asked Township Manager Bibro if he would be kind enough to make accessible some of the exhibits that you just mentioned, so you can refer to them during your testimony on the big screen. Probably most important among them is the amended overall conditional use plan, which has been marked by the applicant as Exhibit A3A, yes?
Yes.
And that's the plan up on the big board, right?
No, there you go. That's the one.
Okay. So there's, A3A has a rendered and a non-rendered version.
Yes, and we did look at both. This non-rendered version relative to what my focus was a little more straightforward, I guess is the best way to say it.
Okay. Are you familiar with the site in question?
Yes, I am.
Can you just identify it in general terms, including the surrounding uses?
Yes, so it has a small amount of frontage via the access to Welsh Road, and then heading north, it is surrounded on 3 sides by residential uses. The area to the north contains 2 stub roads that connect with Leon Drive. There is currently both of the parcels, if you will, the Palo Beach parcel to the north, and then the collection of various movie lots to the south, roughly form a rectangle, and it is currently all vacant area, vacant land.
And the proposed cluster use is permitted within the RA residential zoning district under the ordinance by conditional use, correct?
That's correct.
So the zoning ordinance has standards, general criteria, specific criteria, and other criteria speaking to open space and other issues. If applicant meets all criteria, is your understanding that the Board of Commissioners approves the use subject to conditions?
In general, yes, that's how the process works.
And if they don't meet the specific and general, then the Board of Commissioners may deny the use.
That is correct.
And the entire tract is within that RA1 district, yes?
Yes.
So looking at your report, page 1, you actually identify section 282-205, which contains those general criteria. The first one is where applicable, there shall be market analysis showing need and impact of the proposed use. That's at 282-205B1. Did you see a market analysis?
And a formal market analysis was not submitted. Relative to what was submitted was a statement from the applicant's planner that effectively referenced the need for housing in the area. My comment in the report to you is relative to the entire statement of the requirement, which is that the market analysis should show the need and impact of the proposed use. And as much as it has been in the news quite a bit in the recent past, there is a need for housing. However, a project of this size will have an impact on the community of some sort, and there has been nothing provided to show impact to whether it's to the school district, to the police department, to the fire departments, to general traffic, et cetera. The impact has not been determined to at least offer the board an opportunity to determine, all right, well, it's going to cost us this amount year to year because of this increase in dwellings, but it's going to be offset by taxes or other possible revenue. That has not been provided, so it's kind of hard to say that that particular requirement has been met.
And you formed that opinion having reviewed the report issued by land planner John Kennedy on behalf of the applicant at Exhibit A15, yes?
Yes.
The second criteria is that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the conditional use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. That's at 282-205B2. Do you have an opinion on whether the plan as presented does in fact not support the public health, safety, and welfare?
I do, and there are two things that stood out to me. One is that there obviously will be an increase in traffic relative to 162 new dwellings. I would defer most of my concerns or comments to the township traffic engineer. However, I think common sense would suggest that there's going to be a lot of new trips. If there were less than 162 homes proposed, there would be less of an impact on the overall road network. The other item that jumped out at me is and this is particularly in regard to health, safety, and welfare, is that the plan does show some conceptual locations for detention basins. The majority of them are in what would appear to be reasonable, appropriate places. However, two of the basins are proposed in such a way that they are surrounded by either proposed lots or surrounded on two sides by proposed lots, and the third side essentially is facing one of the adjoining properties. As I look at this in the context of a conceptual design, the first thing that stood out to me is that these detention basins will have to have emergency spillways, and I'm assuming that they would be above ground basins, which is what most people are used to seeing. Above ground basins have to have an emergency spillway. The spillways need to discharge somewhere safe.
At this point, I'm going to object. We all know that stormwater management is a land development issue, and it will be discussed and determined if this project moves forward into land development.
Overruled. You can cross-examine as to the extent of his testimony.
To just conclude what I was driving at, there are no locations available for emergency spillways as presented. The one basin is surrounded on three sides by proposed dwellings, and our office would not permit an emergency spillway to discharge towards the back of somebody's house. So, granted, there is no official vertical design for this. This is not a land development. However, looking at the big picture for this project and the impact, as I stated earlier, the There's a lot of units. If you had less units, you would probably be able to provide more appropriate locations for spillways.
So if you would, A3A, the general plan is up on the board. Can you point out the two basins that you're referring to?
If I knew how to use this, I could. Which button?
Just the top one, Brian.
Not seeing it.
Keep it up in the air first. Make sure it's on. There you go. See it?
Okay. Okay, so this is one of the basins I was referring to. This is the second.
Brian, could you use some language as to where you're pointing for the record?
I'm sorry. Yes, and I had this in the report. The basins proposed behind lots 53 through 63 and lots 32 through 42.
Top left quadrant of the plan as shown?
Yes.
And with regard to vehicle trips, so any residential development on this lot would increase the number of trips from vacant land to anything. So why do you make the comment about vehicle trips?
It's what I perceive here is that the number of proposed dwellings has been maximized. As I relate to further in my report, I think there should be more open space and more appropriate open space that would reduce the number of lots, which in turn would reduce the number of trips.
So the next provision is that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of the properties in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair property values within the neighborhood. Focusing on the first part of that, section 282, 205B3, do you have any observations about injurious to the use and enjoyment of the properties in the immediate vicinity?
Yeah, I felt that the open space area proposed at the very top of the property, and this pointer is not cooperating. There we go. That's me not cooperating. So this strip of open space here.
So to be clear,
the
northernmost portion?
Northernmost portion, it abuts the rear lots for the homes on Leon Drive. It is a section, a strip of property that is proposed to be 50 feet wide. That area, as presented, has a significant amount of trees, or the appearance of a significant amount of existing trees. And the previous testimony suggested that there will be not only a pedestrian path constructed through there, but a berm, as well as proposed plantings and buffer plantings. So in looking at it from a practical standpoint, one of the things that jumped out at me is previous versions of the layout for the area that we're talking about. They had a buffer strip, if you will. They weren't particularly required.
Objection. It's irrelevant to the proceedings. Any previous plans were not submitted in these hearings, and thus are irrelevant to the discussion.
All right, so
hang on. So noted, overruled. You can get them on cross.
All right, what I was driving at is the area offered as open space is 50 feet wide. In my opinion, it is impractical to think that the various features that were suggested would be installed in that area. I don't feel that they could all be installed as intended without removing a majority of the trees that are there, and or requiring that the path meander to save existing trees in order to install a berm and a pedestrian path. It needs to be wider, and the reason it's being considered as open space is to take advantage of one of the conditions for open space that if the open space is less than 75 feet wide, it can be considered as open space if it has a path in it. And to me, it's somewhat impractical in that particular location, and due to what I would anticipate being a removal of a fairly significant amount of trees, that to me is going to adversely impact the residents that have the yards abutting this.
And those are the properties that are on Leon Drive, up by the stub streets of Buckthorn and Grapevine, right?
Correct. It's behind the lots 16 through 25.
The next general criteria is that the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development or improvement of the surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. That's B4. Do you have any observations on that?
Yeah, I think that traffic has been discussed quite a bit. It's been established that currently it's anticipated that a traffic signal would be installed at Welsh Road and the proposed road. However, it's a rather small strip of property, and what we would anticipate being required improvements such as road widening, lane tapers, etc., it's entirely possible that additional right-of-way would be needed at a minimum on the Hatfield Township side of the road, and there are homes along there. It will be up to the developer to secure that right-of-way in order to be able to construct whatever winds up being the required signal and respective improvements. So those residents will be impacted purely by the virtue of needing to give up right-of-way. And as one of the residents testified, it's likely that at least one, if not maybe a couple of existing septic systems exist in an area near the road. They would probably be impacted as well. And since no official design has been done, we will have to see what the future holds. However, in the spirit of impact to residents, that to me is an impact that will occur as a result of this development.
The next provision is that adequate utility access roads, drainage, and/or necessary facilities have been or are being provided beyond those normally contemplated for the neighboring properties. That's B5. Do you have an observation on that general criteria?
Yeah, just a very, very general observation, and this is in regard to the Leon Drive neighborhood. The township has experienced significant drainage issues on Leon Drive and in the surrounding streets. And what I would want to make clear is that should any of the site drain toward Leon Drive, once we get into the design stage, we will have to be extremely conscious of doing whatever we can to ensure that there's no adverse impacts. The other aspect is, it's been already testified to that the existing sanitary sewer system will need an upgrade to a portion of it. To me, that's something that occasionally happens as part of development, but it is an impact. The developer would have to be in agreement that they would be willing to do that.
And so far, you understand they've made that commitment during the presentation of their case?
Yes.
Item F on your report is the next general criteria, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress designed so as to minimize traffic congestion on public streets beyond what the normal impact would be by a permitted use, and that's B6. Did you have an observation on that one?
Yeah, that to me would dial in perfectly with the township traffic engineer's testimony. I would prefer to just defer to him as it relates more to specific traffic design aspects. What I've commented on so far is more of my professional opinion about the generalities.
And as a result of your review of all of the information we've talked about, the serial hearings, the plans, the testimony. Did you form a professional opinion whether the applicant has complied with the general criteria as contained within the zoning ordinance at section 282-205?
No, I feel like there are things that have not been presented in a way to be compliant.
Now, in addition to the general criteria, the applicant must demonstrate conformance with the specific criteria for the cluster use, and that's found at section 282-30F. The provisions of the ordinance are replicated in your report at pages 3 and 4. Do you have any observations immediately regarding compliance with the specific criteria?
There's one portion of the plan that I don't believe is compliant, specifically there we go, over here.
And where are you referring?
That is between lots, bear with me. Between lots 132 and 133. The plan identifies a proposed 30-foot potential future access to Paper Street. So that access would be considered a road. However, as presented, it appears that those two lots are shown to have side yards. If that's considered to be a street, which it would be per the ordinance, then they would be required to have two front yards. Accordingly, those lots would not be compliant.
So the zoning ordinance definition section at 282-6 actually has a definition for street, correct?
Yes.
Are you able to read for us the definition of street as contained within the ordinance?
It says street includes street, avenue, boulevard, road, highway, freeway, parkway, lane, alley, viaduct, or any other ways used or intended to be used by vehicular traffic or pedestrians, whether of public or private ownership.
So whether someone calls that an easement or not, you consider that potential future access to the paper street reflected on the plan as a street as defined under the Hatfield Township zoning ordinance, correct?
That's correct.
And that creates two corner lots on either side of the street, right?
Yes.
Which means two front yards instead of two side yards.
That's correct.
Speaking of definitions, at 282.6, there's a definition for developable area. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
And what does that definition say?
Hang with me here. 286.
Can you identify what page you're on and number? Is that something you can do easily for us?
It's page 4.
Page 4? Thank you.
Welcome.
Developable area is the lot area exclusive of floodplain, land covered by water, wetlands, and easements, including overhead utility lines.
And is it your understanding that the term easement is not defined within the Hatfield Township zoning ordinance?
Correct.
So when the applicant calculated developable lot area, were you able to assess whether they accurately, by way of your reading of the ordinance, calculated developable lot area?
As presented, there is a subtraction for easements, but it doesn't identify what easements or where they are, on the plan. So it's difficult to determine that all of the easements and/or paper streets have been subtracted out.
And you're indicating that, in your opinion, the areas reflected as paper streets on the 1922 plan that's been referenced are actually now considered easements and would not be part of developable area.
I'm going to object. That's leading the witness, number one, and I've had an objection throughout these proceedings about the discussion on paper streets and have repeatedly said that the rights of access, which is what paper streets are, have no application in zoning matters. And they're immaterial and irrelevant, and that goes from case law from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court starting in 1955 through and to the case law that's out there that exists today. It's to be considered in a private action in a court of common pleas. And in fact, that private action has been filed by the developer in the court of common pleas. It's a quiet title action that's currently pending. And that's where those rights are adjudicated. Paper streets are not relevant to zoning proceedings.
May I respond?
Sure.
We're not looking to adjudicate the rights to the paper streets. What we are interested in is applying the Hatfield Township zoning ordinance to the development of land. And the cases that Ms. Von Spreckelsen has cited in the past, Michener, Tobin, Pennsylvania Ventures, in my opinion, are distinguishable. Michener was a deed, private deed restriction, so two people got together and made a deal. These rights derive by operation of law, having the 1922 subdivision plan approved and the township never accepting dedication. And so eventually the public right to the paper streets has fallen by the wayside, but the private interests remain. Tobin expanded Michener, but the import of the Tobin case is that it circled back to the definition of street in the municipality's ordinance. And if we look at the definition of street in Hatfield Township's ordinance, the definition is much broader, much more encompassing than the Tobin definition. And while Ms. Von Spreckelsen has indicated in the past that she believes that paper streets are immaterial or irrelevant, I would submit that disposition of the rights to the paper streets between potential beneficiaries may not be in play before this Board of Commissioners, but the application of paper streets within the township under the zoning ordinance is. And for that reason, I'd like to ask the question.
And if I just may respond, so what he's assuming now is that those paper streets are valid paper streets, and what you're doing by saying that is you're enforcing private rights. That's what the township is doing. And by saying that these are paper streets that exist and setbacks have to be taken from them and developable lot area, et cetera, has to be calculated, removing those paper streets, you're saying that those private rights exist and you are going to enforce them as the township. You are now enforcing them. Because if this quiet title action is successful, those rights are gone and those paper streets are gone. And then what happens? It can't be enforced anymore. So what you're doing is enforcing private rights. That's what you're doing.
I disagree.
And that's
I disagree with the characterization.
All right.
Clearly.
All right, so this is what I'm going to say. The ordinance requires easements to be deducted. It could be a sewer easement, it could be electrical easement. An easement needs to be deducted. Your argument is that private easements don't need to be deducted. Mr. Panzer's argument is that all easements need to be deducted. What's happening here is the application of the language of the zoning ordinance, not the enforceability of private rights of easements and rights of way and things like that. That's what your quiet title action is. Here, we're interpreting the zoning ordinance. He's testifying as to how he interprets the zoning ordinance and whether or not he thinks the word easement includes private and public. Your argument last time was, it's not defined, Saldo defines them as public, therefore you shouldn't include private easements. I have a feeling he's going to say private easements means private and public. So you can cross him as to how he came to that conclusion, but it's germane, it's interpreting this zoning ordinance, not having anything to do with the enforceability of paper streets.
And I respectfully disagree with you, and you have not answered my question, as if that quiet title action is successful, those streets are extinguished, they wouldn't exist, and there wouldn't be easements there.
Then you wouldn't have to deduct them. If the easements go away, there's no deduction.
Private rights you're enforcing now, because they are they're private, and now you're enforcing them as the township by saying that they are included within easements.
If there was a sewer line in my backyard and there was an easement, that easement would need to be deducted. If the sewer line was removed and the easement distinguished, that easement would not need to be deducted. That's the facts. So it's overruled. He can answer the questions.
So regrettably, I'm going to ask the court reporter if he is able to go back to the question and repeat the question.
Question. You're indicating in your opinion the areas reflected on the paper streets in the 1922 plan that's been referenced are actually now considered easements and would not be part of developable area. Objection.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to that?
I do not.
Do you have other examples of your role as the Hatfield Township municipal engineer where the paper street easements have been honored during an application for property use?
Objection. It's irrelevant.
Goes to course of conduct.
Ask the question again.
Really tested my ability to recall my questions here. They're not written down.
Well, maybe the court reporter can help you.
Yeah.
Question, do you have other examples of your role as the Hatfield Township municipal engineer where the paper streets and easements have been honored during an application for a property use?
And you're objecting, Julie? As to what?
Relevant.
Relevance? Overruled.
Can you answer that?
Yeah, so in the course of time with Hatfield Township, I did review roughly, I'd say, a dozen or so plot plans for buildings on movie lots within the township. In each case, due to the size of the movie lots, the applicants needed to go get zoning relief for setbacks because the lots are, in fact, extremely small. But in each case, when the plot plans came to the township for approval, the respective paper streets were respected and the setbacks were taken from the paper streets. The only encroachment into the paper streets was to either extend a driveway that, you know, if the lots happened to be further back from one of the main roads, or to construct a driveway to provide access to that lot. But otherwise, the boundaries of the paper streets were respected as it relates to building setbacks.
So, Ms. McAdam, in your professional opinion, having reviewed the specific requirements for the cluster conditional use, that 28230. Do you believe the applicant has shown compliance with those specific requirements?
In looking at how things were presented, the plan identifies a required open space total of 13.337 acres relative to calculating the developable acreage and doing the respective calculation from there. As we discussed, there's question as to whether other areas needed to be removed from the calculation to result in a different developable area. However, as presented, I take issue with how some of the open space areas are considered. There are, and it's a labeling issue, but it's kind of not. Previous testimony has suggested that the open space areas are, in fact, a continuous system of open space. I really don't agree with that. As an example, there are 3 different parcels identified as common open space E, and they are, one is here to the top right-hand side of the property. Then there's one here in the center, and then there's another one here on the other side of the road. These are all labeled common open space E. So, in my opinion, if the open space is supposed to be a continuous system of open space, those are not continuous. They are separated by proposed roads. To me, that's not really. That doesn't really work, in my opinion. It doesn't fit the intent of continuous open space.
So before you go too far into the open space issue, so the specific requirements were at 28230F, yard regulations, development standards, and the like. We addressed the developable area and the other issues you just mentioned. We talked about streets, paper streets. Do you find compliance with each provision of 28230F as you've listed them at pages 3 and 4 of your report?
The concerns I have been discussed. I think that the yard setbacks on those 2 lots are not compliant relative to they would be corner lots, so that in particular that's not compliant. And the majority of the other items would be more dialed in when it comes to the actual plan design. So, you know, there's some non-compliance that maybe could be addressed in the future, but as presented, there are some issues.
So the next item in your report at page 5 talks about section 28230E, and that's the requirements for the tract to be considered for a cluster. Indicates that not less than 15% of the total developable tract area and all the non-developable tract area shall be preserved as common open space. Do you have an observation or a comment on that?
Yeah, I started to allude to that a minute ago, and as presented, they calculate an roughly of approximately 13.3 acres of required open space. As it's shown in the tabulation, there's roughly 16.8 acres of open space provided. However, as I started to discuss, I think that the way some of the areas are considered are really not a continuous system of open space. I would almost go as far as to say that you could walk through, whether it be Doylestown Borough or Philadelphia, you know, there are park areas in various places in those 2 communities, and they are in many ways connected by sidewalks. As presented, the one strip of the 2 open space E's, it's compliant. It's not, in my opinion, not entirely compliant in the spirit of the ordinance, in large part because it's I think it's a 30-foot strip of property with a pedestrian path in between. And it abuts the rear yards of all of those lots. I don't feel like that meets the spirit of open space from the perspective of a cluster subdivision. The whole idea behind a cluster subdivision really is to allow for smaller lots and provide larger areas of open space that have some benefit to either the immediate community or to the township at large.
So that bleeds over into ordinance section 28230G, which talks about the requirements for common open space. And you've talked about some of the lack of continuity. Are there other observations you make with regard to whether you believe the applicant has shown compliance with that provision of the ordinance 28230G?
I think that the nature of the proposed open space, there's a series of fairly small areas, and how that's supposed to be considered continuous, I just don't understand. I don't agree with, particularly the area, up here.
When you say here, where you're from?
I'm getting there. This is back to the Leon Drive area. You know, this is, I believe, common open space C, as is this one, if I've got my notes correct, where they're separated by a road, and as I discussed before, the longer strip, probably cannot be built and installed as it had been testified to. So I feel like this open space area over here is completely removed from all of the other open space proposed open space areas. You've got a nice stretch down here on the western side of the property that I think is much more in line with the intentions of clustering, except most of that area is encumbered either by wetlands, waters, or floodplain. And similarly over here, these areas, they certainly
Where's over here?
Oh, to the lower right of the property, that is, apologies, used to gesturing here, near lot 129, I'm sorry, lot 129, that's open space F. So these areas that I was just referring to that have a lot of protected environmental areas, they are commonly offered for open space with developments. That's not, in and of itself, is not uncommon. However, relative to a cluster subdivision and allowing smaller lots, I think the anticipation and the expectation is to have usable open space provided in a much more efficient way than what is presented.
So you make further observation throughout your report, pages 6 and 7, regarding common open space. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on with regard to your observations with regard to the open space reflected on the plan A3A, which illustrates the use, the Pulte cluster?
Yeah, the requirement is that it shall predominantly consist of natural environmental areas or planted and maintained vegetation, which may contain walking, biking, equestrian trails. It's that right now, because it's just a sketch, there's no opportunity for us to comment on proposed plantings. That would come in the future should this move forward.
So in sum, did you consider the applicant's presentation as reflected on the plan of the open space consistent or inconsistent with section 28230G of the zoning ordinance?
In my opinion, it's inconsistent.
Now, you also made some general observations with regard to the applicant's illustration of the use. They're reflected on page 7 of your report. Will you run through them, please?
Yeah, the first one we touched on already. It is the proposed 30-foot potential future access to a paper street between lots 132 and 133. We discussed that. I think that in addition to the conflict with the way those two lots are configured, they couldn't stay the way they are if that is going to be a proposed access. The other component there is I'm not sure I understand why that location was chosen, because it's kind of roughly partway between paper streets on the adjacent parcels. So it just looks odd as to why that location was chosen. On one hand, I can see where it would be an extension of the road that's proposed here. Come on now. Okay, this road here is proposed, and this 30-foot road potential access is an extension of that. However, it doesn't really go to anything. There is a paper street here. However, what I'm saying is, why not across from this one or across from that one? It's something that could be discussed further, but it stood out to me as a kind of a question mark. Another aspect that jumped out is there is a possible 20-foot emergency access proposed along here.
And when you say here, you're talking about
lots 65, 66, 67, and 138.
the northern
northeastern corner of the parcel. This connects to an existing 20-foot wide private right-of-way. The deed that is in the exhibit packet does not reference, based on my read, it does not reference public access. It appears that the right-of-way was created.
Objection.
So I'll agree that the deed speaks for itself. It's a certified copy from the Montgomery County Recorder of Deeds, and I'd move for its admission. The emergency access easement location has been discussed by the applicant, and we believe that the deed was important to have in the record.
Is that deed in one of the exhibit books?
Yes, that's Exhibit T3.
Oh, it is in yours. Okay.
Okay, just there's some general things. Lots 10 and 11 have some Bowmansville soils that may impact the viability as building lots if the plan moves forward.
That's plan left, north left?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we talked about this, no, I'm sorry, I didn't, but the open space area proposed over here, the lower right-hand side of the property, next to lot 129. Again, this is not something that possibly couldn't be addressed, but the way it's shown now, there's a narrowing of area there due to the corner of that lot. It seems like it would be an ideal location to, rather than have a building lot, possibly to have a couple of off-street parking spaces that would provide the ability for the public to use the pedestrian trail that's proposed there. And it's also kind of tight because of buffer requirements from the environmental resources.
So what'd you say about the parking?
Well, there is no additional parking proposed. As had been testified to earlier in these proceedings, there will be on-street parking, I believe, on one side of the street, and that's fine. But for a large project like this, with the proposal for pedestrian paths that extend beyond the parcel boundaries, it wouldn't be a bad idea to include some off-street parking if somebody would wish to take advantage of the paths from another part of the township.
And would it be fair to say that the common open space requirements at 23230G contemplate such parking
Yes, sorry.
to access the open space area?
Yep.
Did you have other general observations?
I do not.
Did you see other parking areas adjacent to other access points for the recreational areas throughout the 92-acre site?
I do not believe there are any, besides on-street parking itself, there are no currently proposed off-street parking spaces available for residents.
So, based upon all the information available to you, did you form a professional opinion within a reasonable degree of certainty whether the applicant has met complied with the standards of the zoning ordinance as we've discussed tonight?
Yeah, I feel that relative to the general criteria, that is not compliant as presented.
And the open space requirements?
As discussed, I think that dependent on calculation of the developable area, which in turn would potentially result in a different developable area and a different number for required open space, as well as whether or not some of the smaller open space areas should actually count, things may change.
And continuous versus non-continuous open space?
My opinion is that when something's separated by the road, it is not continuous.
And these opinions you hold within a reasonable degree of professional certainty?
Yes.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have on direct examination. I do move to admit T1 through T3, the CV, the report, and the deed.
Any objections?
No objection.
Any party in the room have objections? Okay, no hands raised. It's been requested of me for a comfort break. Can we do 5 for that?
Certainly.
Okay. Let's take 5, everybody. Okay, we're going to go back on the record. Julie, you have crossed for Brian.
Thank you very much. Brian, you're employed as a consultant by the township, correct?
Yes, I am.
And I believe you stated that you've been employed by the township since 2013.
Well, as the appointed engineer, I was with my current company since 2006, and in 2006 I started working with the Hatfield account at that time as the sort of second in charge guy. So I've been with the township since 2006.
Oh,
But
2006.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
that's
just
helpful.
wanted to clarify
No,
as
that's
far as the appointed engineer,
Right.
to make that distinction. But I have been in the township actively reviewing plans and such since 2006.
And that's when you were with CKS, correct? And then CKS became Arrow?
Became Arrow, correct.
Okay, thank you. And you were directed by the township to review applicant's conditional use application, correct?
By Mr. Panzer.
So Mr. Panzer asked you to review the application?
Correct.
And for what purpose?
For the purpose of providing comment on behalf of the township.
And have you spoken with the commissioners regarding this conditional use application?
I have not.
And you had mentioned that you were the township, you've been in the township and working with the township since 2006. So that means you were the township engineer when the single-family detached dwelling cluster developments for what we call the Bexley, the Walter, and the Westport Farms were approved.
I was not, Westport Farms, to the best of my recollection, was already under construction when I came on board. I don't honestly recall the exact dates, but the review, it was through the review process already, so I would not be comfortable testifying to that process. The other projects, yes.
Okay, so Westport Farm was finally approved in August of 2006. So,
Okay, so it probably went to construction right around, well, I got to CKS in September of 2006.
okay,
So
okay, gotcha.
there you go. So no, I was not part of the review and approval process.
Okay. And Did you provide conditional use review letters for any of those developments?
I did not.
And did you testify at any of those conditional use hearings?
I did not.
And you approved from an engineering perspective, though, the Bexley development and the Walter development?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And as part of your engineering approval of the Bexley development, you approved the common open space area in terms of compliance with the open space criteria, in particular, that it be a continuous system of open space, correct?
Correct.
And as part of your, let me strike that. And as part of your engineering approval of the Walter development, you approved the common open space area in terms of compliance with the open space criteria, that it again be a continuous system of common open space, correct?
I reviewed and approved the land development plans. I was not particularly directly involved in the conditional use aspects. But as it relates to open space, the way things were set up was largely driven by the conditional use hearing and the coordination with the applicant at the time. And I would say that particularly for the Walter tract, there were circumstances that were unique to that tract as well as the developer at the time, in which there were considerations made for effectively donating a large piece of property to the adjacent property owner. I think that was all taken into consideration in terms of how the open space itself was considered. Every project, as you're aware, is considered on its own merits. There are circumstances that
I'm going to object. You're going way past the question that I asked. I just asked if you...
Yeah, the Walter tract was approved as it's shown on the recorded plans.
Okay. And did you contact the applicant or applicant's consultants regarding the engineering concerns that you expressed in this report tonight?
No, I prepared this report and did not directly contact Mr. Pazzinis, no.
And did you conduct any independent reviews or studies with regard to this proposed conditional use development?
Independent studies, as in?
Any kind of independent studies
with
regard to your testimony this evening? Or was it just a critique of the conditional use application documents?
It was specifically conditional use documents that had been submitted in relation to the general conditions for open space. I'm sorry, the general conditions for conditional use.
Okay. And let's turn to developable area. You testified that the developable area calculation shown on the conditional use plan, I believe you said you're not sure whether it deducted paper streets from the calculation. Is that what you stated?
As presented, you cannot tell what exactly was subtracted other than it says easements, and my recollection is it's an area of like 0.15 acres, which is a relatively small area. Therefore, I am assuming that the only easement area that was subtracted was the easement extending from that 20-foot right-of-way that we were talking about earlier that goes out to, Orville Road.
Okay, and you said that you were here for all the conditional use hearings, correct?
Yes, I did say that. I believe I was. I don't believe I was away on vacation or anything.
Did you not?
Hang on, did he answer the rest? I didn't hear the end of your answer. You said, were you here for all the hearings? And your answer was, I thought I was, but...
I believe I was. I just wanted, just in case, I don't believe I was away on vacation or anything, but I do believe that I was here as I testified to earlier for all of them.
Thank you.
So if I told you that on April 22nd, at the conditional use hearing, Mr. Pazzinis testified on redirect, I believe it was, I asked him, if the paper streets were deducted, and he said on the conditional use plan they were not. And then I asked him the question of, have you done a calculation? Whether the paper streets, a calculation of the paper streets, if they were deducted, if it still would meet the density requirements of the ordinance. Would our density still meet the requirements of the ordinance?
Can I have a
And
page?
he said, yes. Do you remember that testimony?
Can I, objection for clarification, can I have a page and line
sure.
number?
It's page 59. 59 through 63. 59 to 61.
What was the question?
I asked if he remembered that testimony. He said on direct testimony that he did not know and had no idea whether paper streets were deducted from developable area. So I'm reminding him that that in fact was discussed at the April 22nd conditional use hearing.
So if I may, what I specifically said was, as presented, it shows easement areas coming out. That's what we looked at. And I do not recall what Mr. Pizzina said regarding him having done a separate calculation saying it could possibly comply. I was commenting on what was presented.
So do you disagree with Mr. Pizzina's testimony then?
I don't disagree with his testimony, other than to say, you know, typically for us engineering guys, we would prefer to see the calculations. So, you know, I reviewed what has been presented.
Okay, and the definition of developable area doesn't state that paper streets are to be deducted from the calculation of developable area, does it? Paper streets.
Bear with me, please.
You're reviewing section 282.6, the definition section?
Correct.
I'm asking the witness for the record.
Oh, that is in the definitions where developable area is defined as the lot area exclusive of floodplain, land covered by water, wetlands, and easements, including overhead utility lines.
Does it say paper streets in that definition? The
word-
words paper street,
the
are they
words-
in that definition?
The words paper street are not in in that particular definition, no.
And is easement defined in the zoning ordinance?
As we suggested before, no.
And is easement defined in the township subdivision land development ordinance?
I believe it is. I do not have access to that at the moment.
I have a copy of the township zoning ordinance. I'm going to show you the subdivision land development ordinance. I'm going to show you
Okay.
easement, and it's highlighted.
It says easement, a limited right of use granted in private land for public or quasi-public purpose.
Doesn't say private, does it?
Let me read that again. Did it not say public or quasi-public? Public or quasi-public purpose.
So it doesn't say private, correct?
It says private land.
No.
For quasi or public.
It says for the public or quasi-public purpose.
Can we read
For purpose.
the whole definition from the saldo,
Certainly.
please?
Certainly.
I will reread it.
Yeah, and
Easement.
let's just read it and let it speak for itself. How about we do that?
Into the record.
Yeah.
He already made a determination.
But then you're asking him
and-
questions about what it said. Let's let him read it and let it stand for itself.
It says easement, a limited right of use granted in private land for public or quasi-public purpose.
Thank you.
And paper streets being private access rights, they're not used for a public or quasi-public purpose, correct?
Well, objection to the application of the saldo definition of easement when we're operating under the zoning ordinance and under the rules of statutory construction. I believe that with the term easement not defined in the zoning ordinance, we go to common usage. One may look to the saldo as one of the considerations, but I don't think it's dispositive, so I think it's misleading to go down that line of questioning.
I think you're asking him for legal conclusions, so, I mean, on that basis, I think maybe you should rearrange your question, maybe ask it a different way.
I'm not sure how that's a legal question. I am asking whether paper streets being private access rights are considered public or quasi-public purpose.
Same objection.
Can you answer that question?
I can't answer. I would defer to the solicitor in any township I'm in if I needed to split hairs that badly. It's been my experience through the course of my career that easement and right-of-way are often interchangeable. The private-public aspect, I think is a stretch in that, as I testified to earlier, when we reviewed plot plans that had access to paper streets, they were honored as if they were active streets. And in this regard, we're talking about subtracting easements out relative to developable area. And again, in my experience, I have heard various attorneys, consider right-of-way and easement as the same. I am not an attorney, so what I'm saying is, to me, it stands to reason that if there are access rights across this property, that to me wouldn't be a whole lot different than a gas line easement running through there. So that's how I looked at it. Whether you agree from a legal perspective or not, that's how I looked at it, and that's how I've testified.
Understood. And you said that you're familiar with other developments that had to get zoning relief for setbacks and developable area for paper streets, based on paper streets?
They were individual lots, but yes, not a land development or a subdivision, specifically individual lots that a builder came in, bought a couple of movie lots, wanted to put a house on, needed relief because of the size of the lots and needing to provide yard setbacks of some kind.
So you're not familiar with Vernon Court?
Vernon Court happened before my time.
And if I told you that in Vernon Court that was not the case, and that Vernon Court was allowed to be developed without paper streets being considered in terms of setbacks and developable lot area, would that surprise you?
I'm gonna object to the form of the question. I believe it assumes facts, not in evidence.
Right. Are you going to produce something about Vernon Court before
I
you
can.
ask questions about it?
I can certainly do so.
Why don't you do that?
I have a stipulation and settlement agreement that I can mark as A19, I believe. Hang on, it would be.
They would reflect that the paper streets were in fact considered?
They were not considered.
Hang on, let's, one thing at a time.
I don't have a lot of copies because I've.
No. You're at A19. Thank you. Why don't you describe what A19 is and hand a copy to the witness?
A19 is a stipulation and settlement agreement. It was an action brought by Select Properties against Hatfield Township and the Zoning Hearing Board, and it was appealed to the Court of Common Pleas in Montgomery County, and thereafter there was a stipulation and settlement agreement reached, and that is what is before the witness.
Okay.
I would suggest that the stipulation and so this is the stipulation, not a court order, but I presume that the stipulation was submitted to the court, and there is a court order that reflects the terms. Nonetheless, settlement agreement speaks for itself. I query whether a settlement agreement and discussions regarding settlement would be private, but I guess this is a public document, so My only objection is that this witness doesn't know anything about it. He's already said that. This document speaks for itself.
This document was provided during a deposition testimony, and it was provided of Mr. Bibro, and it was produced by the township.
That has nothing to do with this witness, but in the background, it talks about a settlement of an appeal from the zoning hearing board.
Yes.
Relative to a paper street, so.
It does. It does. He was saying that the paper streets have been consistently honored by this township, and that building envelopes and setbacks had to be taken from paper streets consistently. And I'm asking him whether he knew of this development where it clearly did not have to be.
This is a settlement of litigation.
I understand.
This has nothing to do with how the townships interpret paper streets, other than they sent them to the zoning hearing board because they didn't comply. Court settlements are done for many reasons, as you know, for the expense of litigation and the uncertainty of outcome. This has no relevance to this matter.
It absolutely has relevance to this matter.
Well, you can argue that at the end. You can't.
Okay,
It speaks for itself.
I will argue it.
Go ahead.
You discussed the definition of street, and I believe you read it into the record, correct?
Yes.
And that definition of street does not include the word paper in it. Is that correct?
I will confirm.
For the third time, we've heard the definition. It doesn't include paper street. I think we can all agree.
Oh, okay. And that definition of street also doesn't include the word easement, correct?
It does not include the word easement.
And the definitions of front, side, and rear yards in the zoning ordinance do not require setbacks to be taken from paper streets, correct?
Object to the form of the question. Are you asking the language in the ordinance or its interpretation?
The language of the ordinance.
Well, then let's pause and bring out the definition of the ordinance.
Yes.
Setbacks, right? That's an old one. That's an old one.
What term are you looking at?
Street?
What
You're
term?
looking at?
Yards.
Okay.
Yards. I'm asking about yards.
Hang on. You're asking about setbacks, right?
No.
All right, so-
What I was asking
Hang on,
was
Brian.
what I was asking was the definition of yards, front, side, and rear. And that they do not require setbacks to be taken from paper streets in those definitions of front, rear, and side yards.
So it's a compound question. The ordinance language speaks for itself. She's asking for how it's interpreted. That's a separate question. The language is here. It's in the ordinance.
So I don't have the ordinance in front of me. Is there a definition for yard and then one for front, side, and rear?
Correct.
Yes.
So why don't we start with yard and then let's do front?
Yard, an open, unoccupied space on the same lot with a building or other structure or use, open and unobstructed from the ground to the sky except for public utility lines. Then it goes on to define front yard, side yard, rear yard. Front yard, a yard extending the full width of the lot along the front lot line and extending in depth from the street line to the nearest point of any structure on the lot. Rear yard, a yard extending the full width of the lot along the rear lot line and extending in depth from the rear lot line to the nearest point of any structure on the lot. Side yard says a yard extending the full depth of the lot along a side lot line and extending in width from the side lot line to the nearest point of any structure on the lot.
Okay. And those definitions do not require setbacks to be taken from public streets. correct?
Objection.
It says from the street.
What's the basis of your objection?
She's asking for,
It says from the street.
it's the form of the question. She's asking for an interpretation versus the plain language in the ordinance. It's two separate things.
He's made interpretations throughout his direct testimony of words within the ordinance.
Well, then
But
ask
that
him
wasn't
how,
your question.
yeah, ask him how he interprets that.
I'm asking it whether, no, I'm asking whether it states that word in the definition. It
Well,
doesn't state that.
He just read it. It speaks for itself. So you can move on to your
Okay.
next question.
Okay, all right, Kristen.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it.
So there are new streets being proposed within this development, correct?
Yes.
So setbacks should be measured from those new street lines, correct?
Correct.
The paper streets that you discussed within the boundary of the North Penn School District property, they've never been opened or used for access, correct?
Objection.
To your knowledge?
To my knowledge, no. Well, yeah, they have been used, and this goes back to my previous testimony for review of individual plot plans for buildings within the movie lots.
Hold on one second. I said within the North Penn School District boundary.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, these were lots
Right.
in the general area. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. And did the township ever try to prevent the school district from farming its property over the paper streets area?
Objection.
I have no
This
idea.
witness can't possibly know the answer.
How is that relevant?
How is it relevant?
Are you arguing your quiet title action, or are you litigating a conditional use application?
This proceeding has conflated the two, which I objected to from the very, very beginning, and I've continuously objected to, that paper streets should not be discussed at all. They're private rights. But you've continued to allow it, and now what I'm trying to say is that as let me say it this way, Mr. McAdams said that when individual movie lot owners wanted to develop their lots, they had to go to the zoning hearing board, and they had to get relief from setbacks and such.
He said
And-
if they did not want to respect the setback from the paper street, that's what he said.
Correct. So relative to the paper street issue, if they didn't want to do that, right.
Right.
So now what I'm saying is that the township, that the school district has farmed this property consistently, and I'm asking him if the township ever gave a notice of violation or tried to stop the school district from farming the property, because clearly it wouldn't be complying with the setbacks of the paper streets if it was farming that property.
That's well beyond the scope of his direct. This is cross-examination. There was no testimony about farming and how any of that land was used.
There was testimony in the very beginning, and it's clear from the photographs that this property has been farmed for decades and decades.
Well, then you can argue that in your quiet title action. This case is about interpreting the zoning ordinance and applying the zoning ordinance to your application. Has nothing to do with your quiet title action.
Okay.
It's words. We're interpreting words here.
If the quiet title action is successful, Mr. McAdam, setbacks would no longer exist. Paper streets would no longer exist, so setbacks would not be required to be taken from the paper streets, correct?
Objection, calls for speculation.
If paper streets don't exist, do you have to take setbacks from them?
Well, if something doesn't exist, then it doesn't exist. I have never been involved in a quiet title action myself. I understand that there's one underway, and dependent on the outcome of that action, I would look to the township and to the solicitor to determine the appropriate course forward. If the paper streets are erased, if you will, then obviously setbacks would not have to be taken from them, if that's how that case winds up. But right now, that's still in progress, to my knowledge.
Thank you. You discussed section 282, 205. Those were the general criteria
Correct.
of the ordinance. Those are applicable to all conditional uses. It doesn't matter what the conditional use is, those criteria apply, correct?
Correct.
And those are subjective criteria, correct?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay. And with regard to the market analysis, the first two words with regard to that section say where applicable, a market analysis is required. Correct? It says where applicable. So it may or may not be required in any conditional use.
Well, as I said before, every site is taken on its own merits. For a project of this magnitude, my assumption would be that the township would be curious to know what kind of impact it has on the township.
And did the township ever advise the applicant that such analysis was required prior to these conditional use hearings commencing?
Objection, lack of personal knowledge, no foundation.
I think your witness testified that they got no information from the township about the market analysis, so.
Okay. You discussed stormwater management and the basins that are proposed on the conditional use plan. Those are not fully engineered, correct?
That's correct.
And they wouldn't be fully engineered until land development, correct?
That's correct.
And there's nothing in the ordinance, in the conditional use requirements that say they have to be, fully engineered at the conditional use proceedings, correct?
Correct.
And then you discussed that you felt that there are a lot of lots that are being proposed, I have that in quotes, which then causes a lot of vehicle trips. But the plan shows that the number of lots provided does not even meet maximum density. Isn't that correct?
It's correct. However, as with any land development, particularly residential subdivisions where there's a network of streets and lots, the configuration of those streets and lots has to be factored in relative to existing features, such as wetlands, steep slopes, any other environmental features, if there was a large wooded area that was intended to be preserved, things like that. And so that has to be factored in. And I do not recall too many, if any, previous subdivisions that I've seen where the density doesn't come in a little bit less than what the absolute max would be. My observation relative to this is in regard to what I expanded upon with the way the open space is presented and what could possibly be done to provide a little bit better bunch of open space.
But it meets maximum density, correct? The density requirements,
as presented, the math works that it's less than the maximum density, yes.
Okay. And the open space requirements, they also meet the requirements, the open space that's proposed on the conditional use plan meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance, correct?
As presented.
And with regard to the right-of-way that you said would be needed along Welsh Road, you say that's highly likely that it's going to be needed, but do you know that for a fact?
Oh, we don't, because the design hasn't been prepared yet, and that's been made clear by just about everyone.
And that's usually done at the land development phase, correct?
The formal design, yes.
Okay. You talked a lot about that area on the plan between lots 132 and 133 that shows a potential future access for connecting to a paper street. If that potential future access is removed, then your comment would no longer be relevant, correct?
Yeah, it's there, so as I represented before, we looked at what was presented, and it just seems unusual. It was kind of hard not to notice it, and yet, because it's there, it would not be compliant for those two lots relative to the required setbacks.
But it's not required by the ordinance to be provided, correct?
No, like I said, I didn't
Okay.
understand why it was there in the first place.
Okay. When you discussed, just quick, one additional question about the paper streets. When you discussed the property owners that had to get zoning relief if they wanted to develop their lots without considering the paper streets, did any of those property owners object to that determination, to your knowledge, or did they just seek zoning relief, that they had to take setbacks from the paper streets?
Objection, relevance.
How is it relevant, Julie?
Well, how was it relevant that they honored it? I objected to that.
What?
Well,
Don't answer the question yet.
So
your
I'm
question was
asking
whether or
him-
not they kicked and screamed before they went to the zoning board, or did
No,
they go willingly?
Whether they took an appeal, if they appealed the determination.
Well, why don't you ask that?
Did they appeal a determination of a zoning officer
We-
or an engineer?
We only got the plot plans for review after zoning considerations were done. My recollection, I don't recall if anybody opposed it. For the majority of the lots, the builder that was doing this was very familiar with the size of these lots and understood clearly that zoning relief would be needed from the size of the setbacks. And to my knowledge, well, first of all, I do not get involved in zoning hearing board applications. So I should not comment, and I don't want to comment on what may or may not have happened during those things. We got the plot plans, and we got them with a zoning determination. Whether there was an appeal or not was somewhat irrelevant. We looked at what was presented with the application.
Okay. When you say, did you mean to say a zoning decision instead of a determination? You got the plot plans after they went to the zoning hearing board, is that what you're saying?
Correct, I'm sorry, a decision, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had stated the open space area contains what you called environmentally protected land. That's what I have written down here. I'm not sure if I was right.
Well, there are wetlands and waters and some floodplain soils in some of the open space areas.
And is there any prohibition in the zoning ordinance from including those in the open space area?
There's not.
You mentioned parking, additional parking for the open space areas. The other cluster developments that you were a part of and that you referenced, did they have any parking for the open space areas?
They did not. Now, I think on Bexley, the majority of that open space was all on one side of the tract. And as I've said several times now, every site is looked at on its own merits. For that particular subdivision, as it went through the conditional use process, adjacent residents objected to the idea of trails in that large portion of open space. As part of those proceedings, it was determined that they were not going to have trails. That subdivision has sidewalk on both sides, I believe, and therefore there is not what's proposed here, which is a couple of different connections, pedestrian connections to other properties. And from my perspective, if you're going to have connections to other properties, you know, as you often see with open space areas and trailways and connectivity, it's very common for small 2, 3, 4 car lot parking areas to be provided at, you know, what's often referred to as trailheads. This plan does not propose any of that, and my my feeling is that given the length of the sidewalks and these other connections, it would be appropriate to provide some off-street parking.
And there's sidewalks on both sides of this development, correct?
As presented, yes.
Yes. And again, you're referencing the Bexley and the Walter open space areas, and they have areas that are separated by streets and or sidewalk as well, correct?
Yes.
That's all I have this witness.
Anybody who's a party to this action have questions for this witness? Okay, let the record reflect. I see no hands.
I have no redirect, but I would just observe that Mr. Bazzina's testimony on April 22, 2026, as previously referenced by Ms. von Spreckelsen, was page 59, and the answer spoke to density. I don't remember the exact question, but he limited his answer to density in taking into account any boundaries of paper streets. So just for clarification.
Okay, thank you. No questions, board members, right? Okay. We are at the 9:21 mark. I have commissioners glaring at me who would really like to wrap it up tonight. Can we continue this until the September, what did we say, 29th at 7 p.m.?
We should be able to finish with the township's case, I think, at that point. Is that correct?
Well, that cross is pretty long. I can't account for your cross. But I have two witnesses, traffic and planning, and traffic or transportation will be the shorter of the two. I'll make every effort to get through both witnesses on that evening, all subject to.
Okay. Well, if we start at 7, maybe we have a shot at that. Okay.
Okay.
So, a motion is in order to continue this hearing until Tuesday, September 29, 7 p.m. prevailing time. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. See you, folks. No further mailings. You might get an email from Aaron. No postings. See you on the 29th.
9:29.